Hi, this is Rob Charney, Old Guy Tech TV News 44, Opinion versus Opinion. And today we have Jonathan Charney with me, and John Manajasic is not available to join us. He's ill. He said he would do it sick or not, but we felt for him, so I didn't want him to feel like it was necessary for him to get out of his deathbed and come discuss some of the outrages.
You know, at his advanced age, that's probably a little cruel.
Well, it might be. You may be right. He is getting pretty up there in age, so it's tough for him. Boy, I wouldn't be surprised if our phone doesn't ring and it's him. But anyway, if you got the email that I sent out, one of the things that I sent out was these crazy zero tolerance policies that schools have been taking, and folks, I want you to understand that when we go to zero tolerance, and you don't have to be a zealot about it if you don't want a firearm on a campus, fine. But a child making a finger looking like a gun going bang is not a gun, and is nothing but an outrage and it's just a waste of money, time, and everything else. One of the first ones that's been in the news the most lately had to do with a case of a California high school student who was confronted by Canyon High school officials and told to change her NRA T-shirt because the official deemed the shirt
inappropriate.
Hold on,
Causes violence.
A violation of school's dress code and forbids offensive, violent, or divisive clothing. Well, according to the CBS story in Los Angeles, someone, I don't want to give her name, but even though most of those out there already know it, wore her NRA shirt to school last month, ended up in the principal's office. They were threatening me like I was a criminal, she said. Noting that school officials would not allow her to wear her shirt because it promoted gun violence. Okay, the NRA shirt was given to her by her father and features images of a deer, an American flag, and a silhouette of a hunter. Written on the shirt are the words National Rifle Association of America, protecting America's traditions since 1871. Folks, there was nothing implied whatsoever with that. And again, it's uber over crazy anti-gun zealots in the school system that just make things like this stupid. Makes nothing. It means absolutely none. Don't we already know that the nut jobs don't pay attention to laws? And then we want to affect this poor female, by the way, high school student, from wearing her NRA T-shirt. Give me a freaking break. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Yes.
Well, it reminds me, I can't find the news story now for some reason, but wasn't it a while ago that the American flag was, teacher deems the American flag offensive?
Yeah, well, we've got people dealing all kinds of crazy things. I just wanted to finish on the article to know that it was not the first time that this young lady wore the shirt to school. She's not sure why the shirt caught school administration's attention this time, but believes it may have been connected to the national gun debate. So all it is an out-and-out anti-gun craziness going on in these schools. This was not anything that was offensive whatsoever. What's offensive to me is that school officials won't stand up and talk about the Second Amendment or teach it in schools, or if they do a poor job. And a T-shirt like that is not a threat in any way. I have a second item, because we've got four. I'll go through real fast. In the second case, 12-year-old, we'll just call him Joseph, from Rhode Island, was suspended from his middle school for 3 days and forced to miss testing for his advanced math class after violating the school's anti-weapon policy. According to New York Daily News article, his weapon was a toy keychain. Okay, a keychain that he had won at the arcade, and it just kind of fell out of his backpack. And folks, we're talking about a keychain that was like 1 inch long. Okay, 1 inch long. Looked like it was a little toy. Okay, he was banned from the school trip at the end of the month. The classmate who displayed the keychain after it fell out of Joseph's backpack received no disciplinary action. So the young man who actually won the toy, again, it's a toy about an inch long. He was the one that was suspended, but the kid who made the big deal about it, showing it to everybody, he got off free.
See, this is why in high school you just lie. Say, no, it wasn't mine. I didn't see it. Nope, never saw it.
Well, and this is middle school. These are junior hires, or in my year.
That's why, unfortunately, it pays to lie in school. When I was a kid in school, if I defended myself, I would have got suspended along with the person. So I would have gotten a week's suspension for trying to stop myself from getting hurt. Like there's a school recently that's trying to ban all balls.
Balls,
like soccer balls, footballs, those balls you play on kids'
baseball,
yeah,
tetherball, soccer ball.
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't read the article. It was too stupid. I was kidding.
I don't blame you. We're going to ban balls.
Well, they're trying to ban recess, so.
So we have third case number 3 here. Involves Cobb County, Georgia High School senior who faces felony weapon charges for bringing fishing gear to school. All right, not a gun, fishing gear to school, not in school, to school, more specifically in a tackle box in his car in the parking lot.
Where was this?
Cobb County, Georgia.
In the South?
Yeah.
That
So
doesn't
anyway.
make sense.
So what do we have in our tackle boxes? I know in my old tackle box I had hooks, sinkers, a fishing knife, things like that, right? So Cody was his first name, is an avid fisherman. And he's a 17-year-old student at the high school, was charged the felony of bringing weapons into a school zone after police found fishing knives in a tackle box in his car. Police found the fishing knives while performing a random sweep of cars in the parking lot. According to the article, if the district attorney decides to prosecute, the young man could face 2 to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine for having his fishing tackle box with the fishing knife in his car. It's pretty ridiculous, said Clint Wood, I have an attorney, and I'm hoping to get the felony dropped so I can still go into the Air Force. So not only have we the stupidity amongst these people, we're hurting and possibly ruining this young man's life if he ends up with a felony over his tackle box.
Welcome to America.
I mean, it's just... Okay, well, and we talked about... So there's one final case to talk about out of the 4. Our final case involves an 8-year-old Florida boy who was suspended for school for using his finger. Remember, I started out talking about the finger. Uses his finger as a pretend gun while playing with his friends. According to a Fox News article, the young boy was suspended for a day after administrators at his school said that the hand gesture was an act of violence.
Reminds me of, what was it? There was that deaf kid, I think it was ASL, whose name for himself was this, and he was, the school demanded that he change his name in sign language.
Right. Well, he had, let's see what it goes on here. Finishing up, the article reported that his mother is concerned that suspension and disciplinary record may cause her son to be unfairly labeled as violent. He had nothing in his hand. It was a finger gun, a pretend gun. He didn't threaten violence. He didn't utter words that are inappropriate. He made a sound that used his finger, that's what it was. Reportedly, school officials said their code of conduct prohibits students from playing with invisible guns. Okay, you know what I do? I'm back to throwing papers again. Invisible guns. Oh, come on. My opinion is these school administrators and things that do this, they're the ones that ought to get their asses fired. I'm sorry. This is absolutely ridiculous. Waste of my time and money and effort, but you should be outraged as well. You know, what can I say? So Congress, what have we been going on here? Debt ceiling, Obamacare, it keeps on going. So we have the government shutdown, right? So that it says if Congress fails to act, the Treasury Department won't be able to borrow new money that will soon be strapped for cash and pay all the country's bills coming due. An economist and budget expert experts are fairly unanimous. The outcome would be ugly for the economy and markets. The question is just how ugly.
Obamacare is the law.
So Harry Reid, of course, when he's claiming that we're tying Obamacare into this is not necessarily so. Not all of the representatives are doing that. But Harry...
Anarchists who deny the mere fact that Obamacare is the law.
So he's calling those people who were involved with the sequester, involved with the debt bill, anarchists. Are you an anarchist out there? And I think he was talking about the Tea Party. So we got the Tea Party involved with this situation at all. So what else? What can this do to you? I mean, we've got a number of things that can happen here. How about your nest egg, your savings, the money you've got in the bank? There's a good reason to think that the stock market could drop, if we don't get this thing going here. In summer 2011, Congress fought bitterly about the debt ceiling for months before raising the nation's borrowing limit on October 2nd, barely averting a default. Standard & Poor's called foul anyway and stripped the United States of its sterling AAA credit rating 3 days later. Stocks got walloped. The S&P 500 index had fallen roughly 17% from its highest point on July 7th and to its lowest on August 8th. What about your job? Recessions kill jobs, right? So the spending bill is going to be tied in with recession. That's likely what's going to happen. And a recession is what economists predicts that will happen if Treasury is allowed to fall short of the cash needed to pay incoming bills this month and lawmakers don't raise the debt ceiling for weeks thereafter. That would force Congress to abruptly slash spending or hike taxes to such an extent that it would slam the brakes on growth. So here we go, guys. What are we doing? We're just acting like crazy idiots again, aren't we? But we're getting used to crazy idiots here.
The question is who you blame, because if after all the polls I've read, everybody blames Republicans.
No, that's interesting. You said that last week, and I was trying to find out if that was the case. And actually, I think I got a quote from Bill. Wait a minute, let me get something going on here. We all like Bill, and I think he's got something to say. Well, wait a minute, that's a better one. We'll get that one in a moment. I got a quote that I want to do from Bill here.
Well, there's one that says Republican poll numbers failing precipitously as a result of the government shutdown.
Well, but you got to go again. Who's polling? Here.
You're not worried about the Democratic Party?
No. We've got a lot of good people in the party. We've got a lot of good ideas.
Bill Clinton.
But I think you got to give it to the Republicans. They have a much more reliable media base.
That's us.
And they just say no.
That's
they know
us.
What they want. They want power to cut taxes, eliminate regulation, take government down except for what they like.
Yeah, just like the Democrats.
They can fill the atmosphere with a lot of static.
So, so here we have President Bill Clinton. Of course, we still call him Mr. President, retired President Bill Clinton, and he's admitting that the Republicans are doing a better job than the Democrats. How about that, Bill?
Unfortunately, that doesn't matter because it's a matter of perception. It may be the truth or it may not be, but if everybody thinks that it's Republicans' fault, it's Republicans' fault. Unfortunately, when it comes to the U.S. politics, perception is reality.
So what we got, though, is a situation where if we're going to go through party lines, it's almost a 50-50. So I know you said you thought the Republicans were going to get heard worst on this. I believe that Harry Reid and his ilk is not allowing us to actually have a dialogue and talking. He's standing firm, Boehner's standing firm, and we're getting nowhere. And this is continuing, and state parks are closed. And I like the one funny comic that came out there where they got two helicopters covering the faces at Mount Rushmore because we don't want you to be able to see it. And some of the stupidest government closure things you've ever heard. So what are they doing to get certain things back up and running? They're passing individual little packages and funding those. That's what's going on now. So at the rate we're going here, they're just going to go, oh, well, we need
Well, here's
whatever it may
here's
be.
an article from Market Watch saying, as I thought, Democrats may be winning the war of pub perception over the government shutdown, but a new poll shows that Obama, his approval rating has been wounded. He said before his approval ratings were 50 to 57%. Said more than half the people polled, 52% said Obama was not doing enough to cooperate with Republicans.
Well, there you go. And you know what? For a long time there, we never heard from him, Obama. And
We still haven't, really.
And then a little bit, a couple of days ago, right? Obama talked a little bit and did his, and then he's quiet.
Here's another thing that says Republicans still absorb more of the blame. The same. The AP GFK poll shows 62% of voters blame the GOP for the shutdown. And 63% conservatives are not cooperating enough, which still means if they still believe this, that no Republicans will be elected next section.
Yeah. And
That's 63%. That's a huge bloating block.
yeah. Did it say who and where the poll was taken?
No, that
Yeah,
I
and
did
there you
not.
go. And there's the problem. We each side, Democrats, Republicans, can put out a poll and put out whatever numbers they want to put out. You know, do you happen to remember what the source was that you saw that at?
This is Market Watch.
Okay, so that's a liberal group. So let's look at this, sir. Your safety net, it's titled here, just so you can get that. The Treasury has said it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to prioritize. I'm sorry, folks. I'm tired. I didn't sleep well tonight. So it's impossible to prioritize some payments over others if it can't pay everyone on time. Some of the biggest single payments that come due in a given month are Social Security benefits. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew has already raised the specter of those not being paid in time if Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling. But there's also a chance that some federal benefits could be reduced if Congress chooses to cut spending abruptly in place of raising the debt ceiling. Again, that's not considered a likely scenario, in part because the spending cuts needed would have to be very deep just to allow the Treasury to keep paying the bills that are coming due. So it's affecting everybody. There's and so what do we do? We hold our feet to the fire to our representatives. We've got Ted Cruz and his group on one side. We have Harry Reid and his group on the other side. With Bonner in the middle. Obama invisible. Something's got to get done. And, I get back to the fact where I try to be somewhat moderate in views. All right. I don't really necessarily want to continue just being strictly a party line individual. But in this particular case, the inability to cut some of the spending, some of the pork barreling, and we talked about that, that's going on, the bridges to nowhere, the holes to nowhere, the things that are getting being passed as pork barrel, that's got to stop. And that's part of what that's part of what the conservatives are trying to bring out, is that it's time that some of the pork barrel stop and we watch what spending we're doing. We make a budget, we try to stay in our budget, and that's the whole idea here. But what happens is we don't stay in the budget, we have to raise the debt ceiling every year. Unfortunately, I don't have the statistics here to tell you how many times in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years we've raised the debt ceiling, but it's been quite a bit.
I just, I don't think there's anything we can do about that at this point. The way everything is, I don't think you're going to be able to, cut government or do this or do that. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately.
Okay, so I'm getting a little frustrated by some of these things that we're talking about here, but all it is trying to bring this information to the forefront. Yeah, you can say, hey, I'm hearing Hannity on his show or whatever on NBC, CBS, CNN on their show, and everybody's got a different opinion as to what's going on. I kind of felt this one, written by Daniel Horowitz, was an interesting statement. I'm going to read it a little bit. I don't like reading all things on camera, but some of it needs to be stated better than my memory because it's old too. Earlier, our melodramatic president suggested that it's unprecedented unprecedented for an opposing party in Congress to deny a request for a clean debt ceiling increase. He asserted that nobody in the past has ever seriously threatened to breach the debt ceiling until the last 2 years. And this is the creditworthiness of the United States we're talking about here, okay? Well, let's actually look at the truth. Actually, there have been a number of epic battles over the debt ceiling dating back to President Eisenhower. Many of them resulted in some serious concessions by the sitting president. But what is more important is Obama's amnesia for his own days in the Senate, which were few, by the way. He didn't spend many days there. The president had few accomplishments in his brief time in the Senate, but one of his most public moments was when he spoke out against President Bush's request to raise the debt ceiling from $8.184 trillion to $8.965 trillion. He sounded like a Tea Partier.
Realistically, the Republicans and Democrat are the same thing. They practically believe the same thing, but with differences. He's a Chicago politician. So, are you really surprised by the fact that, Barry says one thing and does another? But it's, typical politics, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's all right. So who do you believe?
None of them.
Well, all right. So increasing America's debt threatens us domestically and internationally, right?
Unfortunately, so does the shutdown.
Okay, so that means that the buck should stop where? At Obama. Washington is shifting the burden of bad choices today on the backs of our children and grandchildren because they're the ones that are going to have to pay for this continual increase of the debt ceiling. I'm not going to be around for it. Jonathan, you may not even be around for it, but your kids may have to end up paying taxes that are going to be at a much higher rate than what we're seeing now, just to pay for our past indiscretions.
Well, the question I want to ask is, should you feel the same thing? Would you feel the same way if a Republican was doing this?
Absolutely.
If Obama was a Republican instead of a conservative, a Democrat, would you say the same thing?
Yes.
Because Bush is partly responsible for the debt we're in now.
But he raised the limit. Absolutely. And that was the statement I just read to you from Obama, who sounded like a Tea Partier. So flip the seats. He's president. Now he's saying, I don't want to do that. You know what, though? He also said, Obama further noted that Bush racked up more foreign aid debt in his first 5 years, over $1 trillion, than any other president combined. Well, guess what? Obama accumulated roughly $2.5 trillion in foreign-held debt over 5 years, from $3.071 trillion to $5.59 trillion. And as for the gross debt, it took from the presidency of George Washington until 2002 to accumulate $6.1 trillion in debt. From George Washington to 2002 to where we are now.
Okay, I have,
in 3 years
instead
of
of
Obama.
bitching, how about we find out, some creative ways to, raise money? Because, as much as all the LEOs are going to hate it, I still say we make weed legal, tax it like cigarettes, and boom. It's $1 billion industry already.
Ooh. Okay, so we've gone into another direction. So you've decided to take one particular thing and say, hey, you know what? I think if we package and make weed like tobacco, we can raise money, right? We can raise money, get taxes, and that'll help what?
It would raise the economy. And I think you could do a couple of things. Since marijuana you can practically grow anywhere, I say, unlike we do with tobacco, make people who are going to grow, make them go through a licensing thing, basically like a 2-year license, like the 215 in California.
Well,
and
it's
it allows
happening
them,
in California.
Well, yeah, it allows them to grow something, you regulate it heavily, and then, they're taxed, when they sell it, there's a tax there, and then you tax it because whether you believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, there's multiple taxes by the time you get it. So that would raise money. It's $1 billion industry at least by now.
Okay, so 621-1210. Somebody call on in. Let's get some other opinions on this. 621-1210, 530-621-1210. Give us a call. Let's talk about this. So Jonathan's thinking that here's one more way that we can help close that debt ceiling. Let's let marijuana be legal, package it, and tax it.
Well, the amazing thing is I was watching granted, it's National Geographic. I don't know which way they lean, but if I was watching a program called Drugs Incorporated, it was Denver, where it became legal, and they actually found that there's a lot less. All the drug dealers are dealing heavier drugs and. Heavier drugs, bigger fines.
And that's what's going to happen. Even if you package it and tax it,
Yeah.
they're going to go on to other drugs.
Well, yeah. And see, the benefit of that is the ones who are only selling weed will stop or do it legally. The ones that are doing a harder drug, if they're selling crack, cocaine, MDA, anything like that, or TCE, 2CB, give them a bigger sentence.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where to really stand on that. I understand where you're coming from, and this is a debate that's been going on since at least the 70s, the early 70s, and of course the laws against marijuana have changed tremendously in that period of time.
I mean, even in the Netherlands, it's not illegal, but it's not legal either. So
but they're having their own series of problems with drug issues because they give free needles. They do a lot of things which benefits the drug user. And they're having a major problem with HIV, hepatitis C, all kinds of things are still caused there, even though it's legal.
This is where, I'm totally for needle exchanges. I'm totally for that because they're going to do it anyways. They're just going to. So you
want to make it easier.
Well, yes, because for one, they're going to do it anyways. So, like needle exchanges, stuff like that, I'm totally for, because the conservative line, if you don't give them needles, they're not going to do it, is total pie in the sky. I mean, that's epic level of ignorance. Give them the ability to have needles and do this, provide safety, and it also, it fixes the health problem with the correlation with some of the harder injectable drugs.
So you're probably okay with condoms in prison, too.
It's going to happen anyways.
So, if I talk about condoms in prison, is that not telling the prisoners where sex is illegal in prison that it's okay to have sex because I'm giving you condoms?
They're already doing it. So I mean, there's really
okay.
So it's a chicken and the egg argument, but it's also ignorance.
People who drive over the speed limit by 20, 30, 40 miles, that's okay too because they're already doing it.
Oh, see, that's different. That's different because it's not a health argument. When you're talking about rape,
it is.
No. Here's the thing. When it talks about when you're doing sex in prison, that's a disease that could wind up killing somebody, and it's illegal anyways, which they're already doing it. Provide them a way to do it safely, whether you agree with it or not. The 20 or 30 thing, it's illegal because you're going to cause people harm. There's no positive, there's no plus to letting them keep doing it, like the positive of giving them condoms.
Boy, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand the people that are pushing that. I understand why they're doing it, and HIV is a problem. Hepatitis C is a problem. Is a gang rape or a forcible rape in prison, are they really going to use a condom?
No.
So all it's going to do is the consensual sex acts, they may use a condom.
But it's better to at least give them the option, blah, 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 blah. It's stopping the spread of diseases.
I don't know. 621-1210, give me an opinion. What do you think? You want to listen to some dumb, I got a blurb here I want you to like. Really dumb, random politician stuff. This is just so you guys can hear some of the stuff our representatives say.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
And
Joseph
that's what
Biden.
This liberal will
Joseph
be all
Biden.
about.
Got to have a
This
slight Indian accent.
will be all about socializing.
Socializing.
Will be about basically taking over.
Get it out. What do you
and
want?
the government running all of your companies.
I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for it.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out
what
is in it.
Is this epic or what?
Isn't it a little racist to call it Black Friday?
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
I've now been in 57 states. I think
57.
one left to go.
We got 7 extra states
Today
now,
we have
Mr. President.
2 Vietnams, side by side, north and south.
Therefore,
What was
believe
the
in white
context of the
supremacy.
Vietnam clip?
Every month that we do not have an economic recovery package, 500 million Americans lose their jobs.
You don't trust me?
Or in the population.
Fallen heroes, and I see many of them in the audience here today.
And
Fallen heroes in the audience. Dead bodies.
A three-letter word. Jobs. J-O-B-S. Jobs.
Proposition 19
Thanks, Joe.
won't even legalize marijuana. It will still be legal under federal law.
No, opposite. Wrong.
2 million people to work in the simplest way. We won't hire them.
I don't know what the term is in Austrian.
Our national
long
interest
is this?
ought to be to encourage the best and the brightest.
Hillary Clinton is as qualified or more qualified than I am to be Vice President of the United States of
You got
America.
that right, Joe.
Quite
You
frankly,
dumbass.
It might have been a better pick than me.
I don't know that Hillary Rosen, I know 3 personally, women named Hillary Rosen, so I'm not sure that that those represent the person we're talking about.
A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
Rocco
Rush
America.
Limbaugh, I hope the country fails. I hope his kidneys fail. How about that?
That was funny.
That's what he needs.
That John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate.
I know I'm a broken record about religion, but
This
you
is
know,
your favorite
when
guy.
that stuff is in your head,
I fucking hate this
it
guy.
just gives you this neurological disorder.
Education.
Vilma.
If you make the most of it, you study hard, you do your homework,
Here's
and
our
you
Secretary
make an
of
effort to be
State.
smart, you can do well. If you don't, you get stuck in Iraq.
God rest her soul, and although your mom's still...
Joe again.
Your mom's still alive as your dad passed. God bless her soul.
Oh, that's very good, Mr. President.
This is like Special Olympics or something.
Stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal. Thank you very, very much.
Guy's got no
stand
legs.
up for Chuck.
I mean, I I had to have a little bit of laugh, John. We had to have a little bit of fun, and you got to admit that clip was pretty damn funny. And Al Gore, we got the famous Al Gore quote in there. In case you didn't get it, he invented the internet, so we need to thank Al Gore for what we're doing right now.
I wish I remember exactly what I remember. There was a specific reason he said that. I just don't remember why. Such a long time ago.
Because he's a dumbass. So let's talk a little bit about guns. Okay, that ugly, bad, nasty, terrible, get up off all by the ground by itself and shoot and kill people guns. You know, as we all know, criminals all obey every law that's ever passed.
Especially the ones we elect into Congress.
Yeah. As you know, we've got a situation in California, folks, that is dire. Okay, absolutely dire. And we're going to probably see Jerry Brown not vetoing any of the bills. And SB 374 in particular is the lead ban for hunting bill, which everybody has begged Brown to veto because it's junk science. There is no substitute. It will completely kill hunting in California, no pun intended.
Which, by the way, will kill more than hunting. It kills a lot of the environmental stuff that all the hunting fees actually go to.
Well, and that's right. Fish and Wildlife is supported mostly off of your hunting licenses if you can't hunt with...
And park fees, and there's other stuff. So,
oh, sure.
So, you know, watch what happens. The problem with this is it's going to happen. It's, unfortunately, it's... The people are afraid of guns. It's these, and as much as I hate to use the term, it's the flatlander city dwellers who don't get guns, never been around them, don't care, and don't care enough about your civil rights to let that happen. Instead, unfortunately, they're victims of violence who don't understand it's the person, not the weapon. So what's going to happen is in our lifetime, there's going to be a de facto ban on firearms and not caring about the Constitution. The problem with that is, what's next?
Yeah.
What are they going to ban?
Well, I mean, and here we go. The lead ban bill number escapes me. I'm sorry. The bill that I really wanted to talk about is 374, and I'll give you just a description of what it is, and then we can discuss a little more in depth here. Under SB 374, all rifles meeting this description must be registered as assault weapons by July 1, 2015. It is practically impossible to know which firearms meet a new definition of assault weapons. However, as disassembly of firearm action is undefined, and nobody, least of all the legislators who voted for it, knows what it means. And for that matter, even what a firearm action actually is. Millions of semi-automatic rifles have magazines that can be removed by a push of a button, and in a minimum, those will likely be considered assault weapons under SB 374, and that classification would include classic hunting rifles like the Remington Woodmaster, Browning BAR, and Ruger 9944, amongst others.
What are like the Remington 700, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, no, Remington 700 did not have a removable magazine, but the semi-automatic version
kits, though.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and it just, again, it's legislators not understanding terms, and they don't know what anything is. But if this bill passes, the good news is the NRA is going to file a suit right away on any of these, probably all of them.
See, they just don't. The problem is the legislators not only don't care, they probably get prop points for sounding like they don't they know what they're talking about.
They want feel good stuff, right? They want to say, "Hey, I stood up and did something," but the laws that we have now are unenforceable. So adding more laws and making everybody a criminal is more important. The magazine bill, the high capacity magazine bill that's sitting on his desk right now, it makes any magazine that is capable of holding more than 30 rounds illegal. And that means across the board, even if you had that magazine for 40, 50 years, any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds will be considered a high-capacity magazine and will be illegal in California and not grandfathered in.
By the way, welcome to the government taking your stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Telling what you have is illegal.
And the banning of most of these common hunting and sporting rifles and the self-defense rifles in existence is a direct conflict with the United States Supreme Court's Heller's decision. In Heller, the court made it clear that arms typically possessed by law-abiding citizens for lawful purpose or for those in common use are constitutionally protected. So this law is unconstitutional right on its basis.
The problem is it doesn't tell you what is law-abiding firearm. It doesn't give a specific example, so they can ban it until the government said, the Supreme Court says, firearms like this or like that are legal.
Right.
It's such a blanket statement that you can make it illegal, and it's not technically illegal.
And then we've got the ammunition ban situation going on. We've got, it's just a good friend of mine, Dustin Ellerman, winner of Top Shot 3, we Facebook each other all the time, and he makes me jealous because he gets to play with all the toys and we don't. Who's my least one of my least favorite people in the whole world? Listen to this one.
What do you say to people who support the right to own arms, that this is the camel's nose under the tent, and the next thing you'll be after concealed carry weapons, you'll be after other kinds of gun rights?
Well, that's just not true. It wasn't true with the prior bill that was the law for 10 years. And I just think, candidly, that dog doesn't hunt.
Why shouldn't it be true? Why wouldn't you want to go after those other laws?
Because that's not what I've done in the past, and it's not what I'm doing right now.
Who is this?
If I could have gotten
51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
Thank God. That was yours and my favorite Senator, Dianne Feinstein, who should really be retired and sent out to pasture.
Here's the problem with that. If there's going to be a downright riot, if that happens, I guarantee they're going to have massive, as John says, civil disobedience, probably a little more violent, happening.
Absolutely. And I I too believe that should these laws become the law of the land, you will see civil disobedience because most Americans are not going to comply with these ridiculous, unconstitutional laws. And it's plain and simple. And I can't tell you how important it is to make sure that you live in an area with a sheriff that's got a backbone. We're fortunate enough here in El Dorado County to have Sheriff DeAugustini saying they're not going to enforce these laws, not
unless
in my
they
county.
remove the sheriff's power like they've tried in other states.
They've tried.
And in California, it's
Joe Arpaio in Arizona, they keep trying and trying and trying. God bless that man. He keeps working hard, and you know what? Yeah, folks, the show today is a little subdued, only because we're so disappointed in so many things in the government, and I didn't really have an opportunity to put a good show schedule together for you, but we covered probably the major topics that are going on in the country right now. And we did it with debt ceilings, we did it with Obamacare, and we're doing it with firearms now. We cannot seem to come to middle ground in anything. And then the problem with the firearm argument is there is no middle ground for the anti-gunners. The true anti-gunners don't want middle ground. They don't want anything. So there's no way to bring the conversation to center whatsoever. The people that wanted Obamacare to be passed, and remember, I'm the one who said that there are things in Obamacare that I think are absolutely necessary. I agree with some of it. But when you have Pelosi standing up saying that, we had to pass this bill so that we know what was in it, we're learning what's in it right now. And from what I'm hearing from many people that are actually studying the paperwork that they're being sent right now, their medical insurance costs are going up.
Mm-hmm.
This is supposedly the Affordable Care Act, right?
Well, it's Affordable Care for some people. If I remember correctly, talking to my insurance adjuster, broker, whatever you call them, anybody who makes over the poverty line, and if they go through the exchanges, it's decent priced. If they try to get it on their own, it's doubled, quadrupled, it's tripled. And you can no longer do group policies, apparently, either, which are now
that's a new one
under California.
Nobody knew about that one. There was one that was snuck in as well.
So I know people whose rates are skyrocketing because the group they were in got a letter saying, "Sorry, we can't do this, and now your insurance is now quadruple of what you were spending."
So I got a big package from Blue Shield the other day, and I need to go through it because I too believe that I now have an increase as well. It looks like at first blush, the first thing that they sent out, it showed that it looked like it was coming down. Now this next batch, and it goes to show you that even the insurance companies are not 100% certain as to what it is that's going on. Now it looks like I actually will be paying more per month than we did before. So what say you? Come on, somebody out there, 621-1210. Give us a call before we wrap this show up. We'd like to hear somebody else's opinion. You guys have got to do it. Come on. Should we sit here? 621-1210. Somebody call? Nobody's going to call?
The question is how long until people complain? I mean, how long does it have to be a certain percentage of somebody's income? Is it 5, 10, 20, 30%? Are people going to complain when you have people spending 30% of their income because they're not only are their rates lower, but the businesses have allegedly shifted people down to 32 hours a week so they don't have to pay for it?
Well, isn't that is definitely one of the arguments, and that was one of the things that was brought up by a lot of the companies that and there's no such thing as a full-time employee anymore.
No.
So that they can back out of, and as you just said, there's no more group, right? No more group insurance either.
Yeah.
So
now the people not only are they making less money, they're spending more money on insurance. They're probably qualifying to if they're making under 30, if they under 32 hours, they probably qualify for the subsidized health care now, but that still drops everybody down to poverty, under poverty level. So then you're going to create, instead of a middle class, you're just going to create a bunch of poor folks.
I really don't know what to say. I'm so aghast at what's going on right now. It's almost speechless. I needed And again, I sure wish somebody had called in to bring in their 2 cents worth because, hey, Wendy, if you're out there, you're usually good for it, or Ann or John or anybody else, give us a call real quick. Let's see what just somebody else says. But, I still have to like some of these stupid politicians, and some of the things that they say are just unreal. Bill Maher again.
It just gives you this neurological disorder.
Education, if you make the most of it, you study
That's
hard.
right. I got a disorder just listening to what's going on in Obamacare.
My favorite thing, and I haven't actually read too much about this, but there's a headline saying Dianne Feinstein says for the First Amendment it's a special privilege.
What?
I haven't read it. It's a video clip, so I don't know what's in it, but I've heard it before. Well, she says it's not a right.
So First Amendment is not a right.
It's a special privilege. Granted, I don't know enough about this clip, so this is just something new to me.
I want to see that one.
I got to warn you on that one.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised. I mean, there's a lot of people who I wouldn't be surprised who hate that. I mean, it's like Bill Maher, for example. I can't stand the guy. I don't think anything he said is ever funny. If he went off the air, I wouldn't be sad. However, it is his complete right to say stuff that is completely, utterly, horribly wrong. But hey, I support his right to say stupid things. But for any of our congressmen, women, or whatever technically she is, saying that it's a privilege is a complete lie and sacrilege. Because thanks to the First Amendment, I can call Dianne Feinstein or any particular politician any bad, dirty name I want to.
Yes, you have a right to not have an opinion.
However, I'm not going to work blue enough to call her what I really think of her.
Yeah, it's pretty bad out there, folks. And you know what? John and I are out here putting ourselves out. NSA, I'm sure you're listening in. I don't know what catchphrase this time that you're looking for. Probably assault weapon. Adds to their list here. But we've done it so often anyway. But we'll carry this discussion on over on Facebook. Make sure you go and see our Facebook site. Make sure you go to our website, and you can see all our shows. They're archived there, so you want to go to theogt.tv and take a look at what's trending and what's happening on our website, what shows are the most popular. Join us on Facebook, and you can tweet us and give us your opinions, and we'll try to represent them better next week. Well, I'm a little worn out this week. I really do apologize. Probably not the best of shows, but at least we're out here trying to do things and get information out to you guys. So, Jonathan, you got anything you want to wrap up with?
Well, I do have a question about this shutdown. I mean, I don't know if the Republicans are right or the Democrats are right. Don't particularly care, honestly. It comes down to what compromises, and generally compromise from my view means the Republicans give more than the Democrats. My question, what would be a down-the-middle compromise? Unfortunately, whether you'd like it or not, Obamacare's law, the only thing you can do is refine it, fix it, change it, so it's fair and balanced, to borrow a phrase from Fox
even
News.
if we take the Obamacare argument out of the issue, because said, it's passed and it's a dead dog already, whatever that may be. So let's just talk about the debt situation. The problem is that at some point you have to, and like I said earlier in the show, we have to look at the pork barreling that's going on. We have to look at our spending habits. We have to figure out what it is that we're spending that we need to stop spending, and
here's the thing.
Stop the backslamming behind closed door arguments.
The problem
that are
is
taking place in
you're going to have
Congress.
to start small. You're never going to get rid of pork barreling at the moment. There's a lot of stuff you're just plain never going to get rid of, just because it's the way it's been, the way it's always be, or both sides will complain enough. The question is, what is something that they could agree on? I mean, I know there's stuff I would like to get, like, for example, like every member of Congress, including the president, be required to do whatever the standard health care is. So force them to do Obamacare. It's only fair. We're citizens, they're citizens. Let them do the same dues we do. Like if there's a government shutdown, they don't get paid. They're not special. We elected them. If anything, they're more answerable to us. So make it fair. Granted, this is not exactly balance the budget, but I think it's a first good step. I think we could strip some of their things away. I think we could, cut back here and there, make a special committee composed of 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and then see what systems of government aren't working so they could fix it, refine it, change it, modify it, or eliminate it if it's not working.
So they have done that. They've put a number of groups together to try to work, and nobody can seem to work with each other here. I think one of the main things it's going to come down to, John, is that I think the government needs to figure a way to make jobs to get people back to work. Because what do? When they work, they spend money. When they spend money, the economy grows.
Well, considering the government's the biggest employer in the United States, technically, they are creating jobs. Not at the moment.
No, they're all shut down now. So what is that doing? You bring up a good point. The point is that with the government shut down, we have people that are not getting paychecks. All right. And what are they doing? They're not spending the money. So now the retailers and everybody else that are trying to make a living, they're being hurt. And this is falling right into a recession.
The question is...
We're pushing ourselves into a recession here.
The question really comes down to is, will the Republicans be right? Because this is their thing. They did this. This is their rally cry, as it were. The question is this risk? Because this is a big risk, because they potentially will risk losing a lot of seats, a complete Democratic majority, if this fails. The question is it worth it? I don't see if it's worth it, honestly. I don't see how this is going to win them any brownie points. If I was them, raise the debt limit like they've always done, try to continue having the same conversation. Will this be enough? Enough of a shock and awe to make people change.
Yeah, the problem seems to be who wants to blink first or not blink first, and that's what the issue is. But they've got to get together and get this debt ceiling situation over with, get the government closure over with, get people back to work. And
by the way, how many days is this? Is it 10?
I haven't counted it, if it sounds right.
Jeez.
It's been a long time. It's been one of the longest. And seriously, from what I've been reading, we are seriously pushing the country close to the brink of recession here if we continue this too much longer. And you'll see interest rates skyrocketing. It's ugly. It's ugly. Stock market's going to tank. Guys in government there, I'm no genius, but I'm smart enough to know that at some point, no matter how tough you need to stand, you also need to bend. So let's try to get this worked out and get people back to work, and then we can continue the discussion as to who's right and who's wrong.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong in my particular belief of what the issue is because you no longer have Americans. You have Filipino Americans, Mexican Americans, Caucasian Americans, Black Americans. You have all these Americans without any of them actually say, I'm American. The problem with that is back when, my grandparents or their grandparents immigrated, however long ago that was, eventually they all assimilated into the United States. They didn't lose their culture, but they realized they were in a new culture. It is time to agree with it, change with it, at least meld with it enough so you can at least rally around the same things instead of the Democrats and Republicans fighting over little things that is doing a lot of damage. My grandparents compromised. Simple as that. That's how they got here. A giant compromise. So I don't understand why our legislators, the jackasses we vote in on either party, can't do the same thing my grandparents did, your grandparents did, and hell, the butcher next door did the same thing. So I don't understand why they can't do that, because that's part of life. I don't get it. As a child, it was compromise. My sister wanted to play with this. I wanted this. The goal was, hey, give it to her or give it to me. It's a bunch of babbling BS. Why these overpaid, undereducated, low IQ bastards decide to screw around my country because all they decide is they're right, instead of we both need to decide and have a civil conversation.
If we could, we would. I don't know what's going on. I'm not an insider. I'm not sitting there at Capitol Hill, and I'm probably not paying attention as much as I should be. But I'm trying to bring thought to you guys watching our show about what's right or wrong. I mean, if you like what we said, great. If you don't like what we said, that's good too, because that's dialogue, and at least we're willing to talk about it. And if you got a point better than mine, I'll agree. I'll be the first one to agree. But right now, we need to get this crap over with. We need to get the debt limit raised, get it done, get to work. I'm going to wrap this up. get to work, create jobs so people can spend money, so we can continue to have the economy running as it should. And
see, at this point, I don't even know if that's the major part. Think about it. You have families who, for whatever reasons, are dependent on the government for money. It's nothing wrong. Fell in hard times. But there's people now that rely on food stamps, Medicare, health care, whatever it is, who can't eat, who can't survive because the bastards in Congress decide to hold an argument in which dick is bigger. I mean, you're hurting people is what it comes down to. We're not numbers. We're not Social Security cards. Individuals whose lives are dependent on you in Congress. You're hurting people, plain and simple. Economy, important. People, more important.
Well said. And with that, I'm going to say this is Rob Charney with Jonathan Charney on Opinion versus Opinion. Hope you liked the show. Next week, we hope to have our third wheel along with us, John Matajastik.
The communist.
The
Shea Rivera
three people
lookalike.
it goes now. We miss you, John. Feel better. Get well soon. And again, those of you out there watching us live or watching us archived, thank you. We appreciate it. Hit that donation button. We really need the money to keep the show going.
It says donate.
Yeah,
donate.
Not donate.
Donate.
Donate. That means give us a few dollars, please. Anything will help. And shout out to a couple of little things. Thank you, Calnet, for some of the internet connectivity that we got. I appreciate that help. Thank you, Windfall. Thank you, Ward's Automotive. Thank you, the rest of you who have donated small amounts of money. Please keep us on the air. Please help. And maybe next week you'll call in. So once more, this is Rob Charney with John and Charney on Opinion versus Opinion, Old Guy Tech TV, News 44. We'll see you next time.